All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for real people just like you, just like me. Before I get rolling here, my good friend August Zadra, here he is. I think it's just Zadra, okay? And it's the whole concept is kind of like DiCarlo. Tommy DiCarlo is DiCarlo, and August Zadra is Zadra. This album, Guiding Star, probably one of the strongest AOR records of the year from start to finish. Melodic rock with all kinds of really good production value on this. This is clean stuff. You can listen to it. In other words, it's not compressed. There's not thump. It's not cluttered. This is rock and roll. And I would call it 80s mainstream rock, if you're going to put it into a category. But again, you know, you'll listen to it, you might hear other things, but this guy here, this, by the way, is Tommy Shaw's clone. And at times he does Tommy Shaw better than Tommy Shaw. Okay. He is the lead guitarist in Dennis DeYoung's touring band. I'm not sure if Dennis is still going to tour, but this guy has set out on his own, and it's a brilliant album. Again, Guiding Star. This came in my shipment last week, and this is a contender for the best album of the year, best melodic rock album of the year, in my humble opinion. All right. Of course, there's other music coming, and so everything's probably going to shift around as far as which position an album would be in at the end of the year, but Guiding Star got to be in my top 5 right now for sure. Anyway, Def Leppard is out there giving an interview, and it's interesting because the headline of this interview is Joe Elliott says Def Leppard survived a 15-year losing battle. Now, this really taps in to my belief that it's not about Def Leppard not being a decent band, not putting out good material. It's about how the industry turned their back on Def Leppard in the mid-90s, like they did on so many other bands. You're cruising down the road, and all of a sudden, hey, we interrupt Def Leppard to bring you Soundgarden, right? And you're like, what? Can't we have both? No, you can't have both. You can only have one. We're going to give you one, right? The music industry, which used to be far more interesting. You know, you could drive down the road 5 years before that and hear Gary Moore, the Rolling Stones, Def Leppard, Guns N' Roses, all right? That to me was a format where you had the bluesier stuff, the rootsier stuff, and then you had the glammier stuff, the more melodic, big keyboard, big hair-oriented stuff. By the way, it wasn't just about the hair. It was about the sound. I mean, that was music you could listen to and you could sing along to the songs. And some of it was even uplifting. God forbid, right? So Joe Elliott looks back at Def Leppard's 21st century struggles, saying that he'd endured a 15-year losing battle before finding a new level of success. Now, the band is about to release probably their best album of this century. It's called Diamond Star Halos, and they are co-headlining the stadium tour with Motley Crue. And then underneath those bands are Poison and Joan Jett. That'll be starting next month. So this is a big deal. They're doing this the old-fashioned way. They're putting out a really good album right before they go out on tour. And they're hoping maybe people might like to hear a new song from the album. Now, because of what the radio industry has done over the past 20 plus years to the rock format, making it, you know, like Five Finger, Death Punch, and Disturbed, and whatever is over there. I don't listen to it. I don't watch it. In other words, I don't watch the charts or anything. I don't see what's going on over there. Every so often, a band like Dirty Honey will get in there. You know, people say, oh, the Struts are really good. Other people are like Ghost. All right, Ghost is a little freaky for me, but sound wise. At least they get good, audio. They understand how to make a good sounding record. So I'll give them credit for that. But for the most part, you can't break through. You can't be Def Leppard, legendary Def Leppard, with the amazing catalog that they have, which has been compressed down to mostly the Hysteria album, a cut here off of Pyromania, and really nothing off of Adrenalize. I mean, I listen to these stations that are so-called classic rock, and this is what they've done. It's embarrassing because this is a band with an amazing catalog. They do the same thing to Journey. They do the same thing to Foreigner. They do the same thing to any band you grew up listening to that had this big catalog. And then if one of these bands decides to make a new album, Journey has one coming, Def Leppard has one coming, they're going to get zero airplay on these radio stations that are constantly reporting on the band and doing articles like this. Like, hey, for 10 to 15 years, we didn't think we were doing a good job. That might be partly true, but here's the deal about Def Leppard and doing a good job. Are you inspired to create great music if you know that radio is just going to ignore it? I mean, album after album, okay, we thought this was a really good album, but they ignored it. Okay, well, let's record another one and see if we can do better. Now, on this new album, I think there's a chance that they could break through. But if I say that and start looking around, the only charts they're really going to do well on are all these independent charts. They're not going to get mainstream rock radio airplay. That format is just too stubborn, too proud, too entrenched in kind of a dark sound to acknowledge that, hey, well, these old guys, I guess they put out something that people like. Maybe we should try it, see if it will, attract some audience over here. And then, do we have to play old Def Leppard too? If we do that, it opens up a can of worms, but at least it's a can of worms, at least there's something. What's surprising here is that the article is making the point, or at least Joe Elliott is making the point in the article, that Def Leppard didn't put their best foot forward over the past 20 years or so. The first 10 to 15, they're really struggling. I think it's a combination of knowing that the radio industry has turned its back. So how does that inspire us to make great music if nobody's going to hear this music on the radio? Yeah, I know. People tell me, oh, they've been telling me this for 6 years. Dave, what about Spotify? What about this? What about that? I'm like, Apple Music. I'm like, great. That's fantastic. It's not the same experience as listening to your favorite song driving down the road. Just isn't. On the radio with a DJ, which I know all of this stuff is going away. It's automation. We don't have a live DJ. We have some dude who's at the command center in New York or Los Angeles, cutting the liners, cutting the track, cutting everything, and then they just drop it in. And you think, hey, I'm driving down the road and I'm listening to a real DJ. You're not. I mean, he's a real person per se, but he's not a local live DJ for the most part. Some stations have, a morning show and an afternoon show, and it's still very canned, and everything is so pre-programmed, and there's no spontaneity whatsoever. Anyway, Joe Elliott goes on to say he noted that the business model changed. It became all about touring. Now, for old bands, it became about touring, right? Because you couldn't make money selling records. So you had to tour and you had to bust your ass on the road and you had to book a lot of dates. And then, of course, you have promoters saying, hey, you got to have another band. And it can't be a new band. We can't find like the shirt, like Perfect Plan. You can't have Perfect Plan opening up for Def Leppard. Well, why not? People might like Perfect Plan. No, nobody knows who they are. We can't take that chance. We need to put someone else on the bill so we can charge more for the tickets. And so people aren't, stunned. They don't feel uncomfortable with this new band that they've never heard of, because we don't play new bands like that on the radio. So they're not going to know who they are. It's, what is that? Circular logic. You know, we don't play it, so nobody's going to hear it. And so we can't promote it and we can't have it go out on tour. In the old days, you had, you know, an up and coming band with a breakthrough single. They would be the opening act, right? And then people would listen to them. And that band, by the way, would try to destroy the headliner. They would go on, and a lot of times they blow the headliner off the stage because they were motivated. They put on a great show. None of that, because everybody's, you know, a big old dinosaur. It's Poison, Def Leppard, Motley Crue, Joan Jett, and people are like, wow. And it is. It's an amazing list of people at one big concert. But you're never going to get acquainted with anything. This has been the problem. I've been talking about this with, you know, people that I have on the show and just people in general, where there is no future to this business. So touring, right? Because these older bands, they can't sell records. This is what Joe Elliott says. The business model changed. Apart from Taylor Swift or Adele, nobody's going to sell 10 million records again. So we toured and it worked. Okay. Well, it did work to some degree. The problem is that we still don't have a next gen rock and roll coming to bail out Def Leppard at the end of their career. Just like, you know, we've had certain rock stars pass away. There's nobody coming, or at least nobody is promoting what's out there that could be the next generation of Def Leppard. Nobody. So if you like Def Leppard, you hold on to Def Leppard for as long as you can, right? And that's what a lot of people are doing. They're holding on to this music that they grew up listening to because, you know, the left turn was taken in 1993 or whatever, and people in the industry didn't think that those people would still be around wanting to buy tickets to shows. And here we are spending stupid amounts of money on tickets for shows. And in some cases, these bands are not at all what they once were, right? These artists, they don't sound the same. They don't look the same. They don't put on the same kind of show. Not in all cases. I know a lot of these bands, these older bands, put everything out there and they try to put a great show together. Def Leppard is still a viable, great band, and they should be on rock stations. Their new album, which is called Diamond Star Halos, is coming out. And I don't know if anybody in radio, including, you know, these major corporations that run everything, if they would think to themselves, well, I think this time, we haven't done it before, but I think this time we should maybe put some Def Leppard on the radio. You know, the new Def Leppard, not, you know, I don't know, pour some sugar on me. We need to put something off of this album, which so far sounds excellent, sounds amazing. And would that break the log jam? If one got through, like Journey has stuff coming out, would that help Journey maybe get their new material out there? I don't know. Based on what happened last summer, Journey had a single. Even keyboardist Jonathan Cain said, I don't understand. Nobody touched it. Nobody talked about it really that much. You know, the day it came out, we got a little bump in activity. And then after that, crickets, right? And it's just sad. And there are other bands. And then there are bands that I talk about. And my good buddy, August Zadra, right here. Okay. And a lot of times when I do videos now, I'm talking about the next generation, which is already here, which has been here. There have been albums coming out since the year 2000, since when Joe Elliott said that, you know, the last 10 to 15 years in that time frame was difficult. It's been difficult for fans of this kind of music. It's been really difficult. And then the media focuses on anything but that stuff. And you've got a couple of record labels, one in particular that I really support out there, but at least maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 decent record labels, mostly based in Europe, not here in the United States. They have, some offices and distribution here, but most of it happens overseas. And these American talk show guys that do rock shows, they don't talk about this stuff. Well, it's all project bands. It's just this guy working with that. So is it good music? Could it be a touring band if maybe somebody promoted this and you could sell a couple of 100,000 copies of something again? I know, with the streaming and the streaming revenue, that this is a losing proposition. It just is. So if, Def Leppard worldwide can push out like 1 million copies of this Diamond Star Halos thing, it'll be a miracle. It'll be nothing short of a miracle. And they have the wind at their back right now. They are kind of in a new phase of their career where the creativity is still there. The passion is still there. The live show is still there. Everybody in this band seems happy and working on all cylinders, and they could do it. And I hope they do, because maybe that will open things up for some of these other bands out there that have been trying and trying. And then who knows, maybe some of these bands that are new that people don't know about will start to get some recognition. So in any event, this is a problem that was really self-inflicted. The industry itself did this. They inflicted, and they said, you know what? We can't have these 2 or 3 or 4 styles anymore on the radio. And for now, what? Almost 30 years, you've had the same garbage, the same sort of dark and uninspiring sound. Some people love that stuff. So music is subjective. I can't listen to it for more than a half hour without really, I'm like just getting irritated by it. Like, okay, I gave it a chance. Now I have to change the station and find, the Doobie Brothers. I have to find something that's uplifting, that is more melodic, and maybe I can sing it in the car when I'm driving down the road. Not that I have to sing. All right. That's my video. Sorry about all the rambling. Some people like the rambling. Some people hate it, but it's what you get here. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you soon.